Okay, so you've probably seen the name Gypsy Rose Blanchard pop up in your feed, right? It's one of those names that just screams shocking headline. But what if I told you the real story? Well, it's not just about one family's dark secret. What if it's actually a window, a way for us to look into a really rare psychological disorder, a legal system that's completely struggling, and honestly, a media that kind of thrives on tragedy? That's exactly what we're going to dive into.
And this is the thing that just doesn't add up, right? It's the central question at the very heart of this whole story. For years, Gypsy Rose was a victim. I mean, she was put through this unimaginable medical abuse by her own mother. And yet, the very system that was supposed to protect her, to save her, is the one that ended up sending her to prison. How on earth does that happen?
So let's just get this straight from the jump, because it's the foundation for everything else. Gypsy Rose's mother, Dee Dee, she systematically and intentionally made her own daughter sick for years. And the whole time, the courts, the doctors, the entire system that's supposed to stop this kind of thing, they pretty much just looked the other way. This was way more than a family tragedy. It was a massive systemic failure. All right, so to really get a handle on what happened to Gypsy Rose, we have to go way beyond the crazy headlines. We need to try and get inside the mind of her mother. Because her actions, the whole thing, it was all fueled by this incredibly complex psychological disorder, one that, tragically, twists a caregiver into an abuser. Okay, so the official clinical name is a bit of a mouthful: factitious disorder imposed on another. You've probably heard of it by its older, more famous name, Munchausen syndrome by proxy. But look, the name doesn't matter as much as the main idea, which is actually pretty simple. The victim isn't really sick. The abuser is the one inventing the illness, either by straight up lying about symptoms or, and this is terrifying, by actively making the person sick. So you're probably asking, why? What could possibly be the motivation here? And what's so twisted is that it's not always about a direct desire to hurt the child, even though that's exactly what happens. Instead, it's all about the perpetrator feeding their own deep psychological needs. They're craving the attention, the sympathy, the validation they get from everyone seeing them as this amazing, devoted parent to a desperately sick child. And this leads to a pattern of super chilling red flags. These perpetrators, they're often masters of disguise, right? They look like the perfect, most attentive parent you've ever seen. They seem weirdly comfortable, almost like they're thriving, in a hospital setting. They stay unnervingly calm even when their child is going through painful procedures. And hey, if one doctor starts asking too many questions, no problem. They just go doctor shopping for a new one. But the biggest tell of all, the kids' mysterious symptoms. They have a funny way of just disappearing the second they're separated from their parent. 9%. Seriously, I just want you to sit with that number for a second. 9%. We're not just talking about unnecessary surgeries or emotional scars here. According to some studies, the mortality rate for victims of this kind of abuse can be as high as 9%. This is, without a doubt, a life-threatening form of child abuse. So yeah, that brings us right back to that huge question we started with. If this abuse is so incredibly dangerous, and if there are red flags, why didn't the legal system step in and protect Gypsy Rose? What makes this specific kind of crime so unbelievably hard to prosecute? Well, it really boils down to three massive challenges for prosecutors. First, you almost never have a smoking gun. The evidence is pretty much always circumstantial. Second, try explaining this bizarre psychological disorder to a jury. It's so hard to do, and that expert testimony often gets thrown out or challenged in court. And third, you're fighting against a really powerful human bias. Most of us, juries included, just find it almost impossible to believe a parent would intentionally do this to their own child. You have to remember, in a criminal case, the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt, and that is a super high bar to clear. So when a prosecutor doesn't have, a video of the abuse or a confession, all they have is this puzzle of suspicious behavior, and a good defense lawyer can poke holes in that all day long. And you have to see it from the doctors' and nurses' perspective, too. I mean, they're trained to trust parents, to see them as a partner in caring for a child. So when they see a parent who seems overprotective or super involved, that's the absolute last person they suspect is actually causing the sickness. And that professional blind spot, well, it's what allows this abuse to go on, sometimes for years. Okay, so we've got a breakdown in medicine, a breakdown in the legal system, but there's a third piece to this puzzle, and it involves all of us, the media. The way this story blew up and the way we all clicked and watched, that played a huge role. And it makes us ask a really uncomfortable question about ourselves. why are we so fascinated by these horrible stories? What this creates is this really powerful feedback loop. Think about it. The media puts out a sensational story because they know it'll grab our attention. Then we do our part. We click, we watch, we share it. That drives up views and profits, which sends a crystal clear signal back to the media companies. Hey, give us more of this. And just like that, the cycle feeds itself. So, whose job is it to break this cycle? Well, the truth is, the responsibility is on both sides. The people making the content, the producers, they have an ethical duty to do more than just chase clicks and shock value. But we, the people watching, we have a ton of power too. Every single click, every share, it's like casting a vote for the kind of media landscape we want. We have to be intentional with that power.
And this really gets at what journalism could and should be doing. I mean, responsible media shouldn't just be about showing us the shocking what happened. It needs to dig deeper and explore the systemic why it happened. Why did our healthcare system fail? Why did the courts fail? Because when you tell one person's story the right way, it can shine a light on these huge systemic problems that honestly affect all of us.
But here's the good news. If we're part of that feedback loop, it means we also have the power to change it, right? This isn't about just sitting back and letting stories wash over us. It's about taking an active role in shaping the media we all consume, hopefully for the better. So what does that actually look like? Well, first, we've got to be critical about where we get our news. Ask yourself, am I getting the full story here or just the shocking headline? Second, stay curious. Always be the person asking why. Third, if you can, put your money where your mouth is and support quality journalism. And finally, talk about this stuff. We have to have these public conversations about media ethics and demand that they do better. And all of this really brings us to one last huge question. The story of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, when you peel it all back, isn't just about one person or one family. It forces all of us to look at this deep, fundamental conflict. When the media is a business that needs to make a profit to survive, can it ever truly put the public's best interest ahead of the bottom line? That's a question worth chewing on long after these headlines have faded away.